This is the Five for Fighting podcast.
This is the Five for Fighting podcast.
Fantasy hockey, breaking down the lines, matchups, injuries.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Five for Fighting podcast. Sad day. Don't got the normal hype we normally bring, but our team lost to the U.S. in a heartbreaker in overtime. And that's about all I got to say about that. I'm going to turn it over to the boys here. They might have a bit more spunk than I do at the moment.
No, not really. It was definitely a heartbreaker. It was from the first line, first minute and a half, we struggled, and up until the second period, I don't think any of us really had much hope there until Makar scored, and even then, we dominated the game. But like I said, at the end of the day, we didn't walk away with gold, and it's a tough pill to swallow.
Yep, I agree. Like I said, we're down right from the first shift. Like I said, it was a tough game. We knew it was going to be a tough game. I believe we said earlier in the week that it was going to be their real challenge and that the Americans might have the edge there. And we said it was going to come down to the goaltending, and boy, the hell did it ever come down to the goaltending. Connor Hellebuyck, man, take your hat off, because he played a hell of a series, or a hell of a tournament, I should say, and I was kind of expecting him to get the MVP. He never, but hell of a game, and he won it for him for sure.
Yeah, Winnipeg Jets fans must have been screaming at their TV. Same as Leaf fans watching Austin Matthews get a win for a change. I don't know, man. Tough one to go through. The emotions were run crazy. I tried to tie a noose earlier, but thankfully I'm not very good with knots. Fuck. It's we had a whole crew over, and just the energy behind it, and just feeling that soul sucking feeling at the end of that loss, especially for me, because Taves had the robbery, that unreal paddle save by Hellebuyck, but then you had McKinnon on the open net, and then you also had Makar and McKinnon kind of a bit out of place on the eventual game-winning goal. Tough go for both Canada, and as an Avs fan, that was a tough pill to swallow.
Not only that, Dave, but Boldy also whacked Taves and Makar for that first goal. Absolutely whacked the boys, split them down Broadway, and left Binner to dry.
That was a pretty goal, though. That little double tap in the air like that was gorgeous.
It was impressive. He's third in the NHL in scoring for a reason. He
100%.
And he took his chance. So, like I said, the Americans played a hell of a game.
42 shots faced, 41 saves for Hellebuyck today, a .976 average, and a gold medal game. I mean, like you said, it came down. We said it in our last one and said it again. Came down to goaltending. Nothing against Binnington. He played a hell of a game as well, but at the end of the day, he came up short. Hellebuyck came up to
Yeah, Binnington did his job, and Hellebuyck stole the show.
When Binner made that glove save in overtime, I was like, okay, here it is. That was the save we needed, and now here's our chance. But if Connor McDavid could have put the world on his shoulders there in that overtime, he definitely would have too. He
tried.
He really did try.
It wasn't from the lack of trying. 3-on-3 is for that type of game is shouldn't happen anyway. It should be 5-on-5 until the game's done. It shouldn't be a 3-on-3 for a gold medal game in the Olympics.
And I'm right there with you on that. The NHL does a 3-on-3 in regular season. The second we switch over to playoffs, we're 5-on-5. And for a game of that magnitude, I don't know why they decided to go 3-on-3. I can't wrap my head around it. I could see it for the round robin, sure, if you want to, stick to the NHL's kind of game plan with it. But as soon as it becomes important, man, you gotta put something more behind that. That was both gold medal games ended within the first few minutes on 3-on-3. And I would have liked to see a bit more of a battle, but it is what it is.
I think the golden goal too back in 2010 for Crosby was also, I think it was only 4-on-4.
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 Yeah. So I don't think it's ever really been 5-on-5.
Fair enough. I would prefer 4-on-4 to 3-on-3 though.
Big time. and understand that early in the tournament, even the quarterfinal games, like logistically, you're doing 3-on-3 because you've got TV time slots. You've also got, other ice times coming in. You've got to get the other games going. It was this game and the Olympics over. There's nothing after this but the closing ceremonies, which
Yep.
should be wrapping up right now. So what's the rush? What do you get to get moving on with? And to have it come down to, 3-on-3, it's tough because arguably Canada should have been favored. We had McKinnon, McCarr, and McDavid out. Like, obviously, we're the favorite in that format, but it's just not, you're not rewarding the best team in that regard. It comes down to a skills competition and who happens to capitalize, which we had chances that didn't go our way, and then they get that one shot.
This game should never have ended up in OT. We like you said, we had Taves, we had McKinnon's chance. And Celebrini had chance after chance after chance to put it away. And I mean, I mentioned before, I mentioned to my wife when we were watching the game, when he went out there for the 3-on-3, I know he can do it, but that's a lot of pressure to put on that 19-year-old kid there in a 3-on-3 setting for a gold medal.
Agreed.
And man, he tried really hard too. I was really rooting for him on how poetic would it have been if he could have done it. He's especially with no Sid in the lineup, and see a lot of Sid in him, but just wasn't meant to be today.
Yeah, and him and Connor both had a breakaway and couldn't
Yep.
carry it.
Yeah. I almost went through the TV on that second one, man. It was an intense game.
But it also brings us to, chance after chance. We had a 5-on-3 power play. And then, just like they have done the entire tournament, the U.S. penalty kill came out and shut us down. Like their penalty kill was 100% through the entire tournament. Even today was 100%.
Yeah,
We had
men's
a 5
and
on
women's.
Yeah, we had a 5-on-3 for what, a minute and 40 seconds, a minute and 39 seconds, something like that. And we still couldn't capitalize. And like I said, it wasn't from the lack of chances. It came down to goaltending. And at the end of the day, that's what it was.
Yeah. There's also 2 points in the game where American defenders lost their stick, and Canada held pressure in the offensive zone, moved the puck around, and couldn't take advantage. And same as a penalty, when you get a defender losing their stick and you can hold pressure in the zone and they can't get that stick back, you need to take advantage, register a good shot on net. And even the good shots seemed like they weren't good shots, I guess, because Hellebuyck was so on his game today.
Yeah,
But
no,
you
he
know,
he
stole
was.
the show.
Canada had plenty of chances, and it was their game to win for sure, and their game to lose.
Yeah. After the second period, Canada put his foot on the gas, and they dominated that the whole game until the 3-on-3.
Absolutely.
And I had the thought to myself while I was watching the game, everyone else was asleep. We've seen these games before in Leafland or wherever, anywhere you watch hockey. It's when one team is pounding away and pounding away and pounding away, dominating the game, and they can't get a goal, and it's a close game. The other team always squeaks that little greasy goal in right at the end, and that's what we got today because that was Canada's game. We were
But
all over them.
you got to look at it and you got to think, how many more times can McDavid come up short?
Well, that comes into the GOAT conversation for McDavid. Look at Crosby at this point in Crosby's career when he was 28 years old. What had he already accomplished?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So,
absolutely.
On that note, on a man who absolutely loves both of those players, Connor McDavid and Sidney Crosby, and we can go back even as far as Wayne Gretzky, I want to introduce our very first guest on the Five for Fighting podcast, Mr. Larry Pittman. Welcome, sir. So I was just telling the boys you're a big Crosby and McDavid fan. So how about you give us your breakdown of today's game, the heartbreaking loss?
Well, everyone said that Canada's biggest Achilles heel was going to be the goaltending. When you look at the U.S., they had 3 solid goaltenders. However, that's not why we lost. Binnington, if you gave him a rating for today's game, would be a solid A. However, Hellebuyck played a hell of a game, and he's an A+. So that was the difference. The difference was the goaltending, but not that our goalie was playing badly. Our goalie played solid. U.S. scored their first goal at the 6-minute mark, and he shut them out for the next 54 minutes. So there's no way this is on Binnington. He played lights out, and he he deserves the credit. He got a lot of crap over the last year or so playing with St. Louis. And when the chips are down, that guy was there, Stanley Cup winner, and he really played well. The game was lost in the end of the first period and the second period, where we had so many chances we didn't bury them. Everyone's going to look at Tays and going to look at McKinnon, but the chances we had, I haven't got the stats, but if you go back and look at how many Macklin shot wide or shot into a pad and so forth, we needed to bury those goals to tie the game up, because in reality, we trailed for over 32 minutes of that game. So as much as we say we dominated, we still trailed. So we're always putting the pressure on the U.S., and we just, they bent and they bent, but they never broke.
And yeah, that's I think a big credit to Connor Hellebuyck at the end of the day. The A+.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, he came down to Binnington, and like you said, every big game he's played in, it's been 1 or 2 goals that he's allowed in. Stanley Cup Finals against Boston, against Dallas to get there, and then 4 Nations last year. He did everything he could to keep us in, including an OT, like Billard said there, the glove saved there in OT, and then what Devin said there, just McKinnon and Makar just fell out of place, and then that led to Jack Hughes' golden goal.
In the second period, when we had that 5-on-3, that's when we missed Crosby. As you guys know, I'm the face-off wins in our league, and face-offs are so important, and we lost that draw. And the U.S. shot it down the ice, 10, 15 seconds gone. We tried to get entry. They banged it back again, another 10 or 15 seconds. So instead of having a 5-on-3 for a minute and 11, we probably only had it for about 25 to 30 seconds. We should have buried at least a goal there. And then on the goal itself, the overtime goal, Cooper had played his studs so much that when you look at the play, they were gassed. McKinnon and Makar, not McKinnon, sorry, McDavid and Makar. McDavid comes into the deep slot there to Binnington's left to try to help out with support for McKinnon, when in fact he should have skated over to his left and picked up Hughes, who was wide open. He skated along that blue line and then slowly slid towards the slot. They passed it. He was wide open. He buried it. So playing our studs was very important for us to do, but in actual fact, it came back to haunt us because the guys were gassed when we needed them.
We needed some more depth we could rely on. So quickly before you go, I just wanted to get your thoughts on the 3-on-3. Did you like it or lump it? Should it be continued?
Nope, don't like it one bit. A hockey game is 5-on-5. To me, is no different than watching a football game and a team scores a touchdown and then you got to kick a point after. Just doesn't make any sense. In other regular season games, NHL, that sort of thing, even in the preliminary games in the Olympics, there's always another team. There's always some schedule with the broadcasters and so forth. Nobody was leaving their TV today, even went down for another 2 hours if we played 5-on-5. So no, I don't like it.
All right. Well, Mr. Pittman, we want to say thanks for your time, for dropping by and giving your analysis on the 5 for Fighting podcast. It was great to see you. And
all right, guys, thanks for the invite.
Thanks for coming in, Larry.
Okay,
see you next time. Cheers.
Dad with his first ever podcast appearance. He makes a good point though on the face-off, so I give him that. Like you look at who the U.S. were thrown out there. You had Matthews, you had Trocheck, you had Larkin, and I think they got another lefty in there. So they had 2 righties, 2 lefties that they could have matched
JT
up.
Miller.
JT Miller. So they had those 4. It's hard to dominate that draw when you've got those 4 coming at you. And that, like Dad said, that's where we really did miss having Crosby to fit in there.
But he also made a point of, Cooper running the big dogs as much as he did, right? I'm looking at time on ice right now for Team US. And the highest guy that had most ice time was Quinn Hughes. He had 25 minutes. After that, it's McAvoy at 22, and then Jack Eichel at 20. And then after that, it's 17 minutes of the most ice time. And that was Austin Matthews and Getzel. And then, like I said, like JT Miller, 12 minutes of ice time. Zach Wininski, 12 minutes of ice time. Jack Hughes, who scored the golden goal, had 13 minutes of ice time.
He had to
So
spend a bit
they,
of time in the dressing room getting repaired too after Bennett took his chiclets out.
yeah, but at the end of the, but like what I'm saying is, US utilized more of their depth than I think Canada did in this game.
I
And
think
when
that's
you
a
seen
fair
it when they
statement.
came out for OT, I looked over and I said to my wife, I said, I guarantee you, the only 6 players that will play in this OT will be those six top players for Team Canada. And it was. Celebrini and his line went off. McDavid and McKinnon came right back out.
Yep. It's hard to do on that big, well, I guess smaller ice, but it's a big ice surface when you're 3-on-3 and you're playing literally the best in the world, best on best. And I mean, it gets no better than Canada, US, but it's a tough pill to swallow for sure. But at the other side of it, if Canada had to win today, we'd all be pumped. So
We would, right? So someone had to lose, and sadly this time it was us.
I mean, Mikko Rantanen came out after they played after Canada beat them, was talking about how it's hard to have any legs in you after you've just played defense for 25, 30 seconds against the team as relentless as the Canadians. Look at Celebrini when he had that breakaway. Reason he wasn't able to pull a move, he kind of just threw it in there. He was at the end of a shift, gassed. So when you look at how they performed in OT, it's kind of no wonder. Like, yeah, they had a quick reset, but it was the power line shifts. You had McKinnon, McDavid, Makar. They went out, a quick change, and then they were right back out at it. So yeah, he kind of ran them to the ground. I'm not surprised if they were a bit gassed, a bit of performance struggle from exhaustion.
Yep.
Yeah, heartbreaker.
a lot of games in a short week too, like they're no doubt they're tired, they're beat up, but
Yeah,
I don't know.
and they are, like you said, like it was, back-to-back games, a few of them, and then you only had a day to recoup between this game and the semifinals and stuff. But I mean, like I said, it's over now. It's time to move on. We have NHL back this week on the 25th,
Wednesday.
Wednesday. So yeah, we're back to a full schedule there, with McDavid and the Oilers taking the ice as well. So now we just got to look forward to our individual teams, hopefully making the playoffs and making a run. Devin doesn't have to worry about it because Colorado's pretty much entered the Stanley Cup Finals already. But hopefully McKinnon and Makar played a bit better in their Stanley Cup Finals game than they did a little bit.
One bright side is Austin Matthews is going back to the Toronto Maple Leafs as a winner, so maybe
Maybe he can bring some of the juju with him.
give him something to spice him up a bit. I don't know. Hopefully the Leafs can go on a bit of a tear here, because if they don't, within, like we said a few episodes ago, out of the first 3 or 4 games, will determine the rest of the season. So
yeah,
curious to see.
It'll be interesting trade deadline coming up for a lot of teams.
100%. So speaking of the trade deadline, that cuts it for our Olympic mini series. Thanks for everyone for watching. We covered after every men's game, so that's coming to an end. Sad finish to a great Olympics, but it was a lot of fun for us here. So on the trade deadline, we're going to have something special coming at you guys for the trade deadline and also for the playoffs. We'll get back to some regular stuff here over the next few weeks to finish out the NHL season. But once trade deadline kicks off and the playoffs get going, we're going to have some more special stuff coming your way. So again, hit all the buttons, like, share, comment, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. We would really appreciate it. And see you next time.
Have a good one,
Good
everyone.
one, fellas.
See you guys.
This is the Five for Fighting podcast.
Fantasy hockey, breaking down the lines. Matchups, injuries, hot takes, and trades. No clickbait noise, no overplay clips. If there's an edge to find, we already checked.
Parlays, we got them for days. Five for Fighting. News updates, insight, and stay. Five for Fighting.
Read the ice, beat the market, drop the puck.